If I asked one of your clients to tell your story, could they do it? Could they do it accurately? Could they do it passionately in under 60 seconds? In today's Quick Win segment, we'll unpack how 3 simple stories can make your marketing, your website, and even your client meetings much more powerful. Stay with us.
This is the Financial Advisor Marketing Playbook, a show for financial advisors who want to explore the topic of client acquisition and business growth. Your host is Mark Mersman, Chief Marketing Officer at USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of securities offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Playbook. Today's episode really focuses on how storytelling can make an advisor's message unforgettable. And I want to touch on 3, what I believe are foundational stories that every great brand and trusted advisor needs to have inside of their practice. So each story really plays a very distinct role. One is designed to build trust. One is designed to demonstrate results and social proof. And one communicates belief and conviction in what you do. So let's start with story 1. And I would argue that, this is really the base of the foundation, and that is your origin story. The purpose of it is to build trust and relatability, to help prospective clients understand why you do what you do, not just what you do. And to me, I strongly believe that every great advisor has a moment that mattered, has, this moment where the light bulb kind of goes on for them. Not so much in terms of, I overcame this and became successful, but something that significantly moved the needle for them and kind of opened their eyes to the importance and significance of the work that they do. And the truth is, the best origin stories, they don't start with credentials. It really has nothing to do with your education or designations. Now, that might be woven into it to a certain degree, but most importantly, they start with emotion or experience. And, in my experience, when I've heard some of these over the years, a lot of them use the hero's journey format. And if you're familiar with that, even if you're not, I'll kind of walk you through 4 of the main pieces of the hero's journey that you may want to weave into your story. And the first is the call. What first drew you to financial planning? Why is it that you even got into this industry in the first place? Then the second piece of it is the struggle. What challenge or frustration did you notice inside of the industry? Or, maybe you were looking at a scenario where clients were underserved. And this, to me, really becomes maybe the defining moment for a lot of advisors, where they realize that the power of good advice, or perhaps the pain of bad advice, meant more than anything. In my mind, this was kind of that aha moment that an advisor experiences where, boy, you really made a difference in somebody's life, and it no longer was just about earning a living. It was about making a change for the better in others' lives. Or you saw the other side of it, the pain of bad advice or a failure to take action. So that struggle is that light bulb moment, and then the shift. What was it that made you start to do things differently inside of your practice? And from there, that became kind of the 4th piece, or transition to that 4th piece of the hero's journey, where it really truly defined your mission. And what is it that now drives your firm today as a result of the struggle that you saw and the shift that took place inside of you, inside of your practice? So in terms of helping you think about what your story is, and obviously that needs to be very personal, and one can't just give you a story to go out and tell. You need to craft it yourself. But to help you think through some of that, I want you to really think about, what do you want clients to feel when they hear your story? You want to make sure that you're keeping it conversational and not biographical. It should not, read like a resume. This story should sound like something you would share over a cup of coffee. I'd encourage you to record yourself telling it and make sure that it doesn't sound like a resume and you're not trying to beef up, oh, I have this designation, or now maybe that works its way in. You had a certain pain that you saw take place, and part of the shift was I really realized that I needed to get more education on this or this or this topic in order to serve your clients better. That can be a part of it, but that's not the core of it. So I encourage you, this becomes a foundational story inside of your practice, and, it will ultimately be the why behind what it is that you're doing today and why you've made changes inside of your business and your practice and how you handle and treat clients inside of the work that you do. It really starts to define that meaning behind your practice and what it is that you're doing. The second story is your client's transformation story. And the entire purpose of this is to demonstrate proof and empathy and understanding. And you really want your prospective clients to see themselves inside of the story. I think that for some advisors, you might serve 2 or 3 different niches or types of clients. And so you might have to have 2 or 3 different client transformation stories just so that they can see it. And this is really almost framed as a before and after, not necessarily in dollars, because we don't want to sit there and lead with, well, my client earned X percent, and as a result, you will too. That's not the purpose of this. The focus in terms of that before and after is not dollars. It's in confidence. It's in clarity. It's in feeling better about their situation and finally feeling at ease and like, I understand what is happening inside of my personal finances. So I encourage you to focus on the emotional journey, from confusion to clarity, from anxiety to assurance, from kind of drifting and floating out there with uncertainty to, wow, I have guided direction and I know what path I'm on. Focus on that as a part of the story. And as you're telling these stories, obviously, I would encourage you, use real examples, but obviously we want them to be anonymous. We don't need to sit here and out clients. And, you want to make sure that they are real, that you're not creating fictional scenarios, because that will certainly get sniffed out, if you will. I also encourage you to emphasize process over product. That kind of comes back to the whole focusing on return issues. We really don't want the product to necessarily be the driver. We want the process that you took that client through, and what you guided them through, not what you sold or recommended to them. And I encourage you to kind of end with a reflective takeaway. From your perspective, like after we went through this process with these folks, that's when I realized that great planning isn't about beating the market or, anything like that. It's about helping people gain the confidence and clarity that they need to make the right financial decisions in their lives. So again, you might want to think about whether you need more than one version, depending on who your audience is when you're telling this story. But certainly, I think demonstrating that social proof, because people want to have the confidence to know that they're not the first one that's going through this process with you, and knowing that others have traveled this path alongside you and had the kind of results that they are looking for as well. And then the last story is your philosophy story. And the purpose behind this is really to start to position your beliefs as a differentiator. The goal is to really define what you stand for and why it matters. And in my opinion, this is kind of the what you do, but told in a little bit different way. This is why we exist story. What do you believe? What do you believe about money, about planning, about life? This is not about, again, not about products. It's not about strategies. This is about core principles that you hold dear with, in that it might tie back to that why story, that origin story, because it might have been that shift that took place, but now we're really getting a chance to put out there the things that we believe that help define what it is that you do. Maybe it's, we believe money should have a purpose, and I'm just winging it now. Or we believe in planning backwards, starting with the life that you want and then designing your portfolio and your plan and the strategies around that. That's kind of the whole beginning with the end in mind concept. Or maybe you're going to have the core belief that retirement shouldn't feel like an ending. It should feel like a beginning or a transition to the next chapter. Really, you have to understand that the goal of this story, and this isn't lengthy, this doesn't need to be this drawn out story. This is kind of some core beliefs, but the goal for it is, as somebody's listening to it and a prospective client or existing client is hearing it, we want them to say, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. It's actually exactly how I feel. This story will help to drive consistency across your marketing and messaging and even your team culture. As you're building the team culture within, this is going to really, put that stamp on your brand in terms of what it is that you stand for, what it is that you believe inside of your practice. And this will be a differentiator, because I can assure you, the vast majority of financial planning firms out there don't even have this. They're not laying down a core belief or foundation for their clients to understand what to hold on to and really sink their teeth into about what it is that you and your firm stand for. And I'd encourage you to test. If you think that you have one now, I'd encourage you to test it. Like if you can't summarize your philosophy in one sentence that people remember, it's time to refine it. It's time to kind of rethink that. Some questions that I'll float at you, I guess, to kind of get your wheels turning if you're wrestling with what this means or how to craft this story. What do you believe is most important about financial planning? What's the most important thing that, if there's one thing, one kind of core message you want existing clients or prospective clients to hold on to about your firm, what is that? Or maybe you want to think about, what's a common misconception that you wish people understood better or had more clarity around? With, especially our industry can be very confusing. There's financial advisors of, quote unquote, financial advisors of all different types. And I think that's one thing that I've learned over the years in doing this, that, if you tell somebody who has no idea about the industry, you say, oh, I'm a financial advisor, they have one thing in mind, but chances are it has no connection to what it is that you do. Now maybe you'll get lucky and what you do and what their view of financial advisor is aligns. But my guess is the vast majority of people, when they hear financial advisor coming out of your mouth, they have a preconceived notion that is different than what you'd like them to have about who it is that you are and what it is that you believe inside of your practice. Another important question to help you kind of get to some of this might be, how do you define success for your clients beyond money? Now, obviously, we know the money side of it. Oh, we want their money to grow. We want it to be protected. We want it to be effective and tax. Forget that. How do you define success for your clients? And maybe you want to work that into the core belief story that you're bringing to the table. What principles guide your advice and the process that you take with clients? And, maybe you could almost take that same thing and step back a little bit and think of it like this. If your firm were a person, what values would it live by? It's a really interesting question to think about and it might help you in terms of framing this third story. So now you do the work, and I hope that you do. I hope you take the time to think through these stories and really kind of craft them and hone them. And now we have to put it all together, because the truth is these stories work best when they interlock. And your origin explains your why, your client transformation proves your how, and your philosophy defines your what, your belief system, and what it is that you're doing beyond the products and the services that you recommend. It's really the belief system inside of your practice. And then now we have to take that and do the practical applications that needs to go inside of your website. It might become a part of the first 5 minutes of your discovery meeting when you're first spending time with a prospective client. All of it should be reinforced through any social media video clips that you're creating, any client presentations, any prospect workshops that you're doing. So again, I encourage you to think through this. If a stranger watched your video, read your bio, checked out your website, or sat in your office, would they walk away knowing your 3 stories? And if not, maybe that's your next marketing project. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Playbook. Please be sure to subscribe, give us a like, and follow us wherever we may be and wherever you're listening to us. Appreciate you, and take care.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and are not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.